the distributive property, and we probably won't get through the entire lesson, but we'll get through some. And so first of all, if you look at the first few examples here, it says use the distributive property to factor each polynomial. So what we're going to do is, if you notice, I have two terms here. Do we remember what type of polynomial this is called? A binomial, because there are two. So I'm going to first of all look at the 27 and the 18. And I'm going to find the biggest number that goes into both 27 and 18. So what is the biggest number? 3? Is that the biggest number? 9 is the biggest number. Yep, good. So I'm going to go ahead and write a 9 down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the variables. So I have a y squared and a y. If you notice, I have a y in common, just one in common. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some parentheses, and I'm going to think to myself, what times 9 gives me 27? 3. Now notice here I've taken one y out, but in my first term there's actually a y squared. So that means I need to add a y right here. The next thing that comes up is my plus sign. And now I need to think to myself, what times 9 will give me 18, which is my second term? 2. Now notice here I've already got a y that I've taken out. This one only has one y, so I don't need to take anything else out, and I'm done. Now the thing about this is, if I was to distribute that 9y to each of these terms, I should get exactly the same answer as I started with. Okay, so just for kicks, let's try and do that. So now if I take 9y times 3y, I should get 27y squared. Good. If I take 9y times 2, I get 18y, which is exactly what I started with. So I've done that correct. Okay, let's look at the second example. So I look first of all at the numbers, 15 and 3. What is the biggest number that will go into both 15 and 3? 3. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the variables. I have a w and I have a v. What is the biggest variable that will go into that? None. Okay, there's nothing else that goes into that. And so as a result, the only thing I can take out is a 3. So let's figure that out. 3 times what will give me 15? 5w, yep, and I still need to have that w there. I've got a minus sign. 3 times what is 3? 1, and then I also need a v. Now you technically do not need to write that 1. You could just write 5w minus v, but you could if you wanted. It doesn't matter. Questions? Okay, let's look at the next one. So we started off with two terms. Now we're moving up to 3, and what is this called? A trinomial. So we have negative 4a squared b minus 8ab squared plus 2ab. So if you notice now, I've got 3 terms I'm looking at. So first of all, I've got a negative 4, an 8, and a 2. What is the biggest number that will go into all those? 2. And I'm actually going to take out a negative 2 because my first term is negative.
Do you want to take it the last term?
No.
Oh, wait, never mind.
So now I'm going to look, I've got an a squared, I've got an a, and I've got an a. So what can I take out? An a. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the b's. I have a b squared, and a b. So what can you take out? A b. Now the reason why you can't, if you're wondering why can't you take a b squared out, In order for you to take a b squared out, you would have to have a b squared in every term, at least 2 b's in every term, and you don't have that. So now, I need to think to myself, negative 2 times what number will give me negative 4? 2. I have an a, but I need another a. And I have a b. Do I need another b? No. So now I need to think negative 2 times what number will give me negative 8? 4. Do I need anything else with the 4? A b. Very good. And then negative 2 times what number will give me a positive 2? Okay, negative 1. Do I need anything else? No. And so that is your answer. Now some people think that you don't have to put the 1 there. You actually do. They think that if you take everything out, it's just a 0. It's not. You have to account for that.
Couldn't you like the very first two, like the negative 2ab, couldn't you make that positive and just like those other two negative?
Yes, but our lead term we don't like to be negative. Okay, your lead term you guys like to be positive, and so that's why we took the negative out. Okay, let's look at that next one. So you tell me, what can I take out?
1.
A 1? Anything else?
U.
A u and a
T.
t. Very good. So what will that leave me with inside the parentheses?
7 UT
7 ut. Okay,
plus
yep,
21 T
okay,
minus
minus 1. Good job.
How did you get the first one?
Because you look at the numbers 7, 21, and negative 1. Okay, so the biggest number that goes into all those is 1. All right, questions on that? All right, so now we're going to talk about factoring by grouping. The biggest thing you need to get down here is that we are dealing with 4 terms. Okay. So I don't really know if you need to write this down. If you're going to write this down, okay, we're having trouble with that highlighter. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to, let's try that again. Okay, so if you're having to write anything down, this is probably what I would write down. And we will look at this in an example. So if it's still kind of a little bit unclear, which it probably is, that's okay. We'll go ahead and look at it. So let's go ahead and notice what it says. It says factor 4QR plus 8R plus 3Q plus 6. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, if you notice in the example here, it says we need to group things into what? If we've got 4 terms. Pairs. So I'm going to go ahead and pair those 2 together and pair these 2 together. Now what I'm going to do is just focus on the very first pair. So I don't want you to focus on the other pair, just the very first pair. I want you to look at 4QR and 8R. Is there something in common that I can take out with the 4QR and the 8R?
4.
A 4R. Now if I take that 4R from 4QR, what is left? Q. Plus what?
4.
Plus 2. Okay. So now all I did there is just focused on the first pair. Now I'm going to focus on the second pair. So is there anything in common with 3Q and 6? 3. What does that leave me with then? Q plus 2. Now, if you've done this correct, the terms in the parentheses here should be identical. Okay?
All the time?
Yes, if you've done it correctly. And so that will actually be one of my factors. Can somebody, just for kicks, guess what the other factor will be?
U plus Q?
What do you think the other one would be? Who said that? You guys said that? 4r plus 3? Nice job, that's exactly right. Okay, so basically the other factor is going to be whatever is on the outside, guys. Because that's the only thing you haven't used. And so, believe it or not, that is how you would factor 4 terms. So if I were to FOIL that out, I am going to get this as my answer. So we're doing kind of the reverse of what we've already done. Okay, let's look at this one. Factor Rn plus 5n minus r minus 5. So I have 4 terms. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to group. Now notice I've got a negative here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and group that negative in with the r. Okay? And so now we're looking at the first pair. The first pair is Rn and 5n. Is there anything in common with Rn and 5n? An n. Yep. So what will that leave me with? R plus 5. So now I'm going to look strictly at the second pair. I have a negative r and a negative 5. What is in common with each of those?
1.
A what?
A 1.
Anything else? Negative 1. Now the reason why you're probably wondering why would you use a negative 1? Notice here I need to get to an r plus 5, right? This is a negative r. That's not going to match. So if I take a negative 1 from negative r, that gives me a positive r. If I take a negative 1 from negative 5, that leaves me with a positive 5. So now, if I look at the parentheses, oh yay, both of them match. So that's one factor. What's my other factor going to be, guys? N minus 1. Very good job. Okay. The last problem I want you to do for right now is I want you to go ahead and do that bottom one. Factor 3np plus 15p minus 4n minus 20. And when you group it, I want you to remember that you need to put that negative with the 4. Okay, whenever you have that negative there, you need to put it with whatever number it is next to. Okay, so kind of went around and checked out and seen kind of where everybody's at. Remember on this one, what I need to do is take out a 3p because that's what's in common with the 3 and the 15. That's going to give me n plus 5. I've got a negative 4 and a negative 20, so I'm going to take out a negative 4. When I take that negative 4 out, I get n, and then I'm going to add 5 as well. So this whole thing, and like I said, I saw most of you had this, 3p minus 4 times n plus 5. And there you go. That should have been your answer. Okay, we're actually going to call it good for today. We'll continue with this tomorrow, so we'll pick up with the problem tomorrow to start. If you want to get started on your homework, here's going to be your assignment. It's on page 498, 16 through 44, the evens.